How about I give you a ride and then you give me a ride, baby? Ooh, Burr. Hello. How y'all doing? Guess what time it is? Yep, it's time for a second edition of Ooooo, Burr, honey. Yes, it is. I'm getting ready to film it. I'm going to pick up my second guest for the series, and that is Sam Miller. Sam Miller is from Olympia, Washington. We actually met on Facebook first. I finally met him during quarantine, actually, during a BLM protest in Olympia, and he was there to provide security. Because let me tell you, girl, when you see him, you'll understand why security, because he's one tall motherfucker, okay?
This is nice.
Hello, how are you?
Magical. I'm enormous. Okay. The world is not built for me.
It's not. I was like, I hope I'm going to be able to get him in the camera frame over here.
Yeah. But yeah, I just fresh off of work. Been working at a youth homeless shelter for 3 years.
Okay.
And then I gradually started working more and more in the high schools over a period of 2 years until I was full-time working in high schools doing violence prevention work. And then coronavirus hit and the high school thing got shut down. And now I'm back working full-time at a shelter for unhoused youth. And yeah, I really like it. I'm really good at it. Fun's not the right word.
Yeah.
I get like enjoyment and fulfillment out of it.
Yeah.
Since comedy's not like a thing right now, it's all like I'm getting more fulfillment out of just trying to do my job as best as I can, and I'm like 100% into that.
You can attest because you've done several things online. It's just not the same than being in front of a live audience with energy that you can feed off of.
Nope, you don't get the juice. That's what I call it. I just don't get the juice out of it. There's something that I love so much, even if it's an old joke that I'm doing in a new way or a new joke, and having that hit and feeling that and being like, okay, like I'm right where I should be. I feel like I'm the most me that I ever am while I'm on stage.
It's interesting that you say that, because I don't know if it's that I'm the most me, but I can do or say anything that I wouldn't normally say as me. When I'm with friends or when I'm, at work, there's like a lack of fear, I guess.
Yeah.
In April, May-ish, I think you did it 4 times. Throughout the week, you were going to write 100 jokes, and you flat out admitted right off that some of them are going to totally suck.
Yeah.
But you were like, I'm just going to write 100 jokes and then I'm going to read them live. And you did it in front of your wife and kids and your mother.
Yeah. I did it in front of my wife and my kids and my mom. And honestly, like, I was pretty lost. The job I was doing in the high schools ended, stand-up ended. And I had to start taking care of my kids because they were out of school. That ended, and it all happened in the same week. And for about 2 weeks, like, I took care of myself and I did the things I needed to do to stay healthy, but I went into like a pretty deep depression and slept a lot. And like, I was like keeping the house clean. I was making sure the kids were taken care of as best as I could. I tried to do a couple things where I did some stand-up live, and like my stand-up, the way I do it with the long storytelling stuff just doesn't seem to translate to Zoom. So I started writing one-liners, and it was a thing where my kids would go to bed at like 8:30. My wife stayed working, so she'd go to bed at 10:30 or whatever. And then I would stay out till 1 or 2 in the morning and hang out in the car by the airport and write jokes because I'm sad. And then, some of them were good.
No, my favorite was you said, because you talking about like, your past and everything, you said, I always consider myself someone who takes safety seriously. I looked both ways before I crossed the street to do tons of coke and have unprotected sex with strangers. And I was like, oh my God. I was like dying when you read that one.
I gotta say, like, of all the people that would have that as their favorite joke, I figured that'd be right in your wheelhouse.
It was totally. Yeah. When you did those 100 jokes each week, you picked, and I can't remember I know you did some different ones. I don't know if it was just like 2 or what, but you like put up a Venmo or a Cash App, and you raised. It wasn't like you were like, "Hey, give me money."
No.
You were like raising money for other, and you had lost your job. You know?
Well, I was okay. So I'm one of them cats. Like, I'm really grateful for what I have. I've been sober for 12 years, and I'm incredibly grateful for like my community, my family, and like I've worked hard to stay sober, but I'm also lucky. And if I can turn a thing that's horrible into a thing that makes sense and helps out, folks, and that makes me feel good, and I'd rather feel good than make money. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it feels good to make money, but those things are also separate, like, I'm a really lucky guy, and it was really cool. We wound up raising, I think we raised over the 4 weeks, we raised like $3,500, which I was really proud of.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. Yeah. That is so awesome.
Yeah, and it was for my Interfaith Works, which they do homeless services in Olympia.
Okay.
And they helped me back in the day. The director, Meg Martin, helped me back in the day. And so it's really cool that I can turn this weird, because they knew me before I was doing stand-up, and like a lot of my stand-up is like fueled by those experiences, like I'm not funny because I want to be funny. I'm funny because I have to be funny, because if it wasn't for humor, like they would have taken everything. Like to me humor is survival is what it comes down to, and that now humor being something different, I'm gonna use it as best as I can. I
went and like totally like internet searched you and looked up articles. Right, so cool. and you had there were a number of articles.
This is a great interview. You're fantastic. This is so nice. I've had a really shitty day, to be honest. Like, work sucked today, and like it's so nice. It feels so good to be interviewed.
And I learned like a lot. I was like, I am like so glad I like that you said yes and that I get to interview you, because it was like, we met. I remember I friend requested you because someone had shared something of you, one of your Facebook posts, and I'm like, ooh, there's a sexy Burr. I'm gonna go ahead and friend request. Yeah. But then I like started, I'd see your posts and I'd see your comedy, but I'd also see your like, just talking about life, and found out that you were in recovery, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm in recovery, and so I messaged you, and then we started, a conversation.
For sure.
But, so when I was doing the research, I saw that you went to Evergreen, and one of the classes you took was class.
Yeah, the prison writing class.
Yes. Yeah. And then, but what came out of that class is that you did this reading where you and your mother, you shared letters that you, that you wrote back and forth in jail. Yeah. And so you did it for the class, and then you did it like at the Olympia Senior Center.
Yeah, we did it at a few places.
And then you did it somewhere else and raised money for
the Women of Color and Leadership movement. Yeah.
So tell me about, tell my audience about how it came about and kind of what.
It was a weird, it is a strange thing. So I took a class at Evergreen called Prison Writing, and it was about things that were written in prison, and there were things, and also, by the way, I haven't been to prison. I went to jail like a lot, and I went to jail for long stretches of time. Okay. But I mean, I did do a lot of time, and it did change who I was, and I did do time in Yakima, which was a really nasty, it was a really bad situation, and I was 19, and it was terrifying. That's the other thing too. Like, don't get me wrong, like I handled my business, but like it was scary. Incarceration sucks. Yeah. And also I should have been to rehab. They should have done something different with me. And also, as a white person too, like I got it easier than a lot of other people got it too as a white person. Like it could have been a lot worse. But anyway, this project. So I'm taking this class, and it was, I was talking to my mom about it, and then at the end of it, we were gonna get somebody who was incarcerated and look at their writing, and then do a project on it or something. And I felt kind of weird about it. And then I went home that night, and my mom told me, she goes, hey, I still have the letters that you wrote to me while you were locked up. And she goes, and also I have the letters that I wrote to you too, because I brought them out when I got out of jail. It turned into like, when at first it was kind of like a thing where me and my mom, maybe like kind of a therapeutic process where we could look at this time in our lives of what was like a really scary, dangerous kind of stuff that was going on, with me like full blown addicted to, you know, alcohol, methamphetamines, kind of like, and her being terrified for me and scared for me. And I now understand that fear because I'm a parent too. So it's like, yeah, I was like, what's the deal, Mom? I'm fine. Everybody goes to jail every once in a while, you know, because that's the way I thought, you know. And then we did it, and it's weird because me and my mom, like, we still don't agree on some stuff, but we love each other. And her idea was that I was safer in jail. And that's the kind of idea somebody who doesn't know about jail would have. Especially when you're talking about like the Yakima jail, you know? And I talk honestly about some really bad experiences, incarceration involving, and honestly stuff that I did wrong, and I'm not going to go into details right now, but stuff like things that I was involved with that were bad and wrong that I shouldn't have done, and how I take accountability for those things. And what's funny is tying it back, a lot of the charity work and a lot of the stuff where I try to do the best I can at being a good person is because it's born out of guilt of the shit that I used to do. Because when I die, I'm not like super spiritual or nothing, but when I die, I want to be like, hey, good job, dude.
I just thought that was really cool that you can, you know, you're in this class and I mean, just to be able to, you know, because a lot of times people write letters back and forth and they never look at them ever again.
Yeah.
So just to have the opportunity to go back and like have a deeper conversation with your parent, which I'm sure, you know,
it's heavy every time we do it. So we did it, I think we did it 5 or 6 times, including there was a couple times where, I mean, every time we did it, like we sold tickets and I gave the money to charity, and like there was a couple times where, like, I mean, sold out, like a lot of strangers. We did a couple smaller ones up in Seattle. We were talking about doing it more, but honestly, like, it's pretty exhausting because it's not like there's nothing about it where it's like we're reading lines. Like, it's different every time. We read the letters, and there's parts of it and I know it's coming, but it kills me every time. Being locked up like that is the reason why that I am what I am, you know, and like and I love the way that I am now. But like, I wish it didn't have to be like that. You know, like I wish there was a better way to be interesting than going through hell. But that's really how I feel about it. That's why rich people are boring.
Speaking of that, so I was reading one of the articles and it was talking about how, you know, you know, you've got a lot of different jokes, and obviously as a comedian, some things are going to land with the audience, some things are not. Just kind of like, you know, as a performer, I have the same thing. And so one of the jokes, I you know, I didn't write it down or whatever, but it was like, you know, if you're a rich person and you're tired of listening to poor people, kill yourself so you don't have to listen to them. And
I don't think that's exactly what I said.
But it was something to that effect. And you were like, yeah, the audience, like, it was just like crickets, man.
For the record, that's not word for word.
Oh no,
that sounds like a little bit more brutal than what I said. But the spirit is the same. I don't know. I get tired of it, and I get tired of people telling me what it's like to be homeless. Because I know I've had people explain to me in detail what it's like to be homeless, and it's like, it's weird because you wouldn't do that with like a war vet. Like, I don't go around telling cats just got back from Iraq what being shot at's like, you know. Why are they telling me what it's like to sleep in a tent in a park?
Well, yesterday, I guess there was some meteorologist from UW.
Oh, Cliff Mass.
Yes. And so he wrote something comparing what's happened in Seattle to the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And so a friend of mine, he was basically talking about how, you know, the homeless have been around in the area of Seattle that they were talking about, like 3rd and whatever. They've been around for 40 years under the same type of policing, and nothing has changed. You know, it's not like the activities that happened brought out these homeless. They've been there for a long time, and you get to leave and go to your comfortable home.
I'm actually smart with shit like this sometimes, which is what all smart people say. You know, I'm actually smart with shit.
You know, it's funny. I was talking to someone and he said, you know, I'm kind of an intellectual. And I'm like, you know, intellectual people don't go around saying that. They don't have to. They kind of just know. And it's kind of like when someone says, well, I'm not a racist. I'm like, you shouldn't have to say that, you know?
That's like, that's what I hear right before the most racist shit I've ever heard.
I know. It's like,
hey, I'm not a racist, but what I'm saying is that people different than me, I don't like them. It's like, thanks, man. That's another thing. See, that's a weird thing. I'm into like some redneck stuff, all right? Like, I like dirt track stock car racing. I like old country music. I don't
magnet
like that
fishing.
new shit. Magnet fishing. I like weird shit. I like swimming, and I like going to the swimming hole. There's nothing inherently wrong with driving fast cars on dirt. Same thing with like masculinity. It's like, I love being like a dude that just does dude shit and it's cool. I don't care what, like, people say it's like, I don't care what anybody else does, but really, like, I think the world's a fucking beautiful, amazing place full of amazing people that do all kinds of wild stuff. And not only am I cool with it, I want to learn about it. That's interesting. Like, people are different. How fucking cool, you know? But eventually we're going back to my work to drop me back off. Well, do you always drive this? Like, where are we going?
So I'm going to be completely honest. I am being totally classist right now. I decided to come out to University Place because the roads are better. I don't want the shaking. I was like,
you didn't want to go around the shelter on Fawcett?
No, because we were driving. I don't know what it is fucking about Tacoma. It's like, fix your goddamn roads.
Fawcett's the worst. You should go down. What about going down Schuster? And along the waterfront there.
You know what? We'll head down. And I don't even know where the fuck I am right now. This is what happens. I just kind of drive. Oh, I know where I'm at now. I'm in Burcrest. So hopefully I was not speeding because all they do is write tickets in this town because that's the only way they make fucking money.
This rough. Nobody wants to go to Furcrest. Oh, it's one of them drive-by birthdays.
Oh, Olive. Oh, Mizz Honey could get out and do a number for her.
You know what? Olive would love that. I actually know Olive, and she's a fan of the
She's
artist.
a fan. I could do my Mizz Honey has a birthday
you know what?
song.
I'm going to show you something. When this is over. Okay, this is you're going to be mad at me. I've never actually been to a drag performance in my life.
Oh my gosh.
I've thought about going. I've wanted to go, but I just never.
And it's not like you can use the excuse that there isn't one where I live because they've got Jake's on 5th or 4th.
Jake's on
4th, and they have a monthly drag show, of course.
And I walk by it, and I'm friends with drag performers, and which sounds like I'm about to say something shitty about drag performers. Hey, I got friends that are drag performers. Listen, I'm just gonna say it.
You know, Seattle drag and Olympia drag, I'm sure, is kind of in this vein. Some drag shows can be very old school, meaning that they're very glamorous, female impersonation, like just very pop. And Seattle and Olympia have, like, you know, they have bearded drag and they have stuff that's a lot more political. I love it when people say drag shouldn't be political. It's like, it's a political statement.
It inherently
yes, it is inherent.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not like, it's just a thing. Like, I should, for every 5 times I go and watch dirt track stock car racing, I should go watch at least one drag performance so I even out as a human being. I'm involved in a recovery program that really helps me, and it helps other folks too. But like, I talk openly about my recovery and that I got help for it, and I continue to get help to this day. So
how long have you been sober?
12 years.
12 years, wow.
June 10th, 2008. I know, it blows me away.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like I've been sober 12 years, and sometimes, like, if I'm driving on a certain part of town or something like that and I see a spot, recovery is hard. Well,
don't you love how people, like, think, because a lot of people don't necessarily ask me, but they might ask my husband, and they'll say, so how long does he have to go to those meetings?
Yeah. Without the recovery, the family shit goes out the window.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if I would have discovered stand-up comedy while I was still using, I don't think it would have gone well. I think that I would have done it, but I think it would have blown up in my face. So, I mean, that's my general feeling about recovery right now. It is hard right now. You know, I haven't had like cravings. Well, no, I've been thinking about smoking weed sometimes, but I don't.
You know, that's the only thing that I'll sit there and like ponder every once in a while, because I was never a big pot smoker. And for me, it's not like, I tell people that it's, you know, my fear is that I would smoke the pot, and then I would be like, oh, I can go ahead and have a drink. And no, that's not a good, because I tell people, I'm like, I never want, you know, I've never understood people that are like, you know, don't finish a drink, or are happy with one. It's like, I want a drink to get fucked up.
I'm trying to change my world.
Otherwise, there's no point. Like, why are you drinking?
I'm a time traveler. That's what I'm trying to do. I want to wake up in a new world. You know, like, I mean, I've woken up, it cracks me up. I've actually woken up in a strawberry field before. And I was bullied, and I bullied some people too. But I need to be accountable for my actions. Some pretty revolutionary ideas. You know?
That brings me back to your work. So, you know, you're working with youth that are going through things or have gone through things. You know, you've been there. You know what it's like. And so I would assume that they're more apt to listen to you as opposed to their teacher or a principal or their parent.
We walk a line at the youth shelter. A lot of our youth that we work with have come out of like foster care. A lot of them have spent a lot of time in group homes. A lot of them are lacking some skills that a lot of us take for granted. I love the work. My gig and the thing that I'm especially good at is de-escalation. So like when people are escalated and aggravated for whatever reason, a lot of times I can calm people down in a respectful but firm kind of manner, and that's kind of my passion, is restorative justice, de-escalation, trying to find ways where people can hold each other accountable in a natural way that doesn't involve law enforcement or court systems or any of that other stuff.
But they're doing such a great job.
I know. See, that's the thing that's wild, is that a lot of the stuff, I remember when I started hearing about restorative justice, like when I was in college, there was a woman who was in my program with me, and she was talking about restorative justice. And me, after kind of the life that I had where I had been incarcerated, it's like, oh, cool, that's pretty sweet. Like, it's evergreen. I'm like, oh, this hippie thinks they're going to change the world. Like, they're talking about what? Like, you know, we're just going to hug, and then I won't have to get locked up. Get out of here. You know? But what's funny is that I was ignorant in that moment, because the principles of restorative justice and existing in a world without law enforcement are not, like, I don't say without law enforcement altogether, but without the current the way law enforcement is now, you know, to move to a different system is not crazy. It's not wild. It's just, if anything, restorative justice is much more natural than what we have now. Like the idea that we're driving right now, we're going through Ruston, right?
Yes.
So Ruston has an agreement, I think, with the Tacoma Police Department, where they're under both, they have the Ruston Police, but also Tacoma Police Department. So we are under Tacoma Police Department jurisdiction, Pierce County Sheriffs. We are under Washington State Patrol, and then we are under, I think, 3 different federal law enforcement agencies, all of which have different procedures for arrest, different places to take you when you're under arrest, different courts and different laws, of which you break, you might get locked up, you might get probation, with different people to report to. What are we doing? Like, what is this world, you know? And what's crazy is, let's say that I jump out of the car and sock somebody in the face for no apparent reason. Guess who doesn't have any say in the matter at all? The person who was socked in the face.
Yeah.
I can get a lawyer. I can take a deal. I can do this. I can do that. I can get punished, and it has nothing to do with, it's all about the puncher and the arrestee and nothing with the punchy. I'm passionate about restorative justice. And I take it personally because it shouldn't play out like it does. It just doesn't work. If it worked, and this other thing about law enforcement, if law enforcement works so well, then why the hell is it this shitty out, right?
Well, yeah, like why do we have to keep spending more and more money?
Yeah.
In my day job, I worked on budget. And I can tell you every year, every other department was having to make cuts. And some of them big cuts. But police usually went up. They had community service officers. So they were unarmed people, and they each had like a jurisdiction in the city, and they were kind of like a liaison. They could provide, assistance and whatnot to people in need, as opposed to having law enforcement try and deal with that.
Yeah.
The only positions they would ever cut were civilian jobs. It's amazing how they just keep spending more and more on police, and yet is it really doing anything?
Yeah, and these programs in these areas, there's always like, oh, well, we hired a social worker for a while and we tried it and it didn't work.
Yeah.
It's always just like, we're going to try a little bit in this one little area.
Yeah.
And then when it doesn't work, we're going to double down. Like, it's like every social worker they hire 2 cops, and it's cheaper to have a social worker.
Yeah.
I feel sometimes like the nonprofits and the shelters and the day shelters and the warming centers, that we're kind of like the PR department for capitalism, basically, to make people feel better about how there's poor people.
Yeah.
There's been poor people. And there's more poor people now than there used to be.
Well, and that's the thing. I have a friend in Seattle, and he was just like, the homeless population in Seattle, I'm leaving. I'm like, you know what? This isn't just a Seattle problem. If you go down to Tacoma, if you go to Olympia, if you go into smaller towns, you go to Lacey, you're going to see a homeless population, because it's a problem that people want to blame the victim instead of figuring out, how can we as a society address this issue?
Well, I don't know if you ever heard my I used to go, the worst part of jail is, and I goes, they won't even let you leave. I said, the worst part of being homeless is not having any place to live. And that's the truth of it. The housing, so the model we work under is a housing first model, basically. And that's also what the research shows works best. And that basically for people to, whatever other issues they have outside of not having a house, not having a safe place to sleep at is always going to be that person's first concern, is where can I rest? Where can I get enough to eat? And until they take care of the rest and how can they get enough to eat? No other problems are going to get worked on. Okay, imagine all you housed people that are watching this. This is going to be unsettling for you, and I sort of apologize. Imagine somebody burned down your house, and you didn't have any family that could take you in. You didn't know anybody in that area. That night, what is your biggest concern? It's the same as it ever was. You want a safe place to sleep. And once that happens, when I have somebody who's housed, then it gets interesting. Then we can work on some wild stuff. Then we can get into self-esteem stuff. Then we can get into what kind of mental health stuff do you got going on? Are you using substances in an unsafe way? By the way, housed people use substances in unsafe ways a lot. So
what?
I know.
The way this series came about, because everyone in Seattle knows how I love my Burrs. And so they were like, you should do a show where you interview bears in your car and call it Uber. And so I was like, well, I have to change it a little bit. And so that's how I came up with this. And so originally I was like, okay, I'm just going to have a whole bunch of gay bears that I'm interviewing.
Yeah.
And then after, we started having conversations and everything, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to restrict myself to just that. I just thought you were really interesting. So I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and do it.
I do identify as straight, right? But I'm not as straight as a lot of people think. Okay, like I can find men attractive. I can be like, that is an attractive man. I can even want to hug an attractive man. But the sexual activity is what I'm not interested in with that man. And that's basically like, that's kind of how it goes, you know? But here's the thing that I will say is that I love attention. And I've had multiple people point out to me that I fit the bear category. Sometimes I feel like an actual bear when I get angry. And I'm like legit flattered by it. I don't give you find me attractive, that's whatever. That's got nothing to do with me, you know? Like, you look really nice. Yeah, I could say that. I don't give a shit what my wife thinks. You look nice. You look great.
Thank you.
I could find like,
I try.
I was thinking it's very blonde. You know, I was, you got a Slayer tattoo. That's badass. I have jokes about me and my wife and our sex life and stuff. And it's funny because I'll be like, I smoke meth out of light bulbs. And I don't give a shit about that. But if I got to talk about my penis, I'm like, what are they going to say?
I was watching one of your routines and you were talking about having your first son. And you were like, and about how that instant you see your kid, how it just changes your life and you you instantly fall in love. And you were like, here is this thing that I love that came out of this thing that I love.
My wife, of all the jokes, she doesn't like that. Neither my wife nor my son are things. They are people, which she pointed out to me. And what I say is, I go, it's like a thing that I love came out of a thing that I love. It's like if a delicious double bacon cheeseburger pooped out like a slider. And then I had to tell her, it's like, babe, it's not like I think you're like a double bacon cheeseburger. They're both just things that I love. There's a joke I talk about how me and my wife, we like to role play in the bedroom. And then I say we like to pretend we're monster trucks. I actually did a biker wedding in Graham one time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I have a joke, and this is going to get, you don't care if it's dirty.
No.
You want it dirty. Okay, I got you. And then I go, then I'm going to do some donuts. And I go, that's when I lick your butthole. And anyway, I'm doing this biker wedding in Graham, and I was like, oh, cool, bikers. They're going to love my drug stuff, you know? But these were like dentist bikers, not like cool ones.
Bikers on the weekend.
Yeah, I did that biker joke. I did that monster truck joke about licking buttholes. And they went nuts. They loved it. And this guy named Chrome Dome comes up to me. I get off stage. Oh, man, that was great, man. We love that butthole licking stuff, like, you know. And I told him, and this is the truth, is that, like, me and my wife, like, we're intimate and whatnot, but I don't actually do that. Like, I don't actually lick your butthole. I just thought it was really funny. And I told him, like, I'm like, oh, I'm really glad you liked the joke, man, but I'm sorry, but it's the truth. I don't actually do it, you know? And he's like, whatever, man. We all lick buttholes. I'm from Olympia, and I love Olympia. And, like, like Seattle and Portland, it's all cool, man. I got love for Seattle and Portland. But I love Olympia. Yeah. Because it's where I'm from, and I know people. And it's like a stinky blanket that only I like the smell.
Oh, I hope, these nylons, I was like, ooh, these are a little ripe. I hope they don't stink up. So
it smells fine in here.
Okay. Yeah. I sprayed some perfume on. So, okay, because I was like, ooh.
I also work in a homeless shelter, so. I'm just kidding. I got to say, we have really, like, hygiene stuff. I should make that joke, even though I used to be homeless. Our smell is actually fantastic. So, yeah, you can stick it up your ass wherever the fuck you are. I always thought that being funny is one of the most important parts of comedy. Other people have other ideas. But that's the thing. Comedy, there are too many comedians. And
you could say the same thing about drag queens.
There you go. I'm really lucky to get to do comedy. And it really sucks that it's not happening right now. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to coming to some drag performances. I look forward to you coming out and seeing some comedy.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
And I want to thank anybody who thinks that I'm like a really cute bear. You're right. That's really cool. And I'm happy, and I hope you can look through my pictures on Facebook.
I'll have to take you to Diesel.
Okay, that sounds good. I don't give a shit. I'll do anything. I'll write jokes about it.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah. I give you an
all right.
awkward car hug.